Okay, let's take a look at putting this all together, how to handle order of operations with these graphing translations and transformations and reflections. So what if you're looking at y equals negative 2 times the square root of negative x plus 1? My first thought is, okay, what's the most basic graph that would relate to this equation? And I would choose y equals the square root of x, and then ask myself what happens to the y equals the square root of x through our graphing techniques. Okay, so first of all, I want you to have the same principle you have with arithmetic. Work your way inside out. So the very first thing I see is that we have negative x instead of x inside the function. We've discussed that that produces a y-axis reflection of the original graph. So initially, we start out with having a y-axis reflection. Like so. And this guy would simply be square root of negative x. Now, the next thing I notice is that I'm going to multiply the square root of negative x by a value of 2. Now I intend to do this in small chunks. If I multiply by a value of 2, we recognize you're multiplying to the entire value of the function, and we refer to this as a vertical stretch by 2. So I'll graph this in green. And what this means is I'll take my existing y coordinates and multiply by 2. Y equals 0 times 2 is still 0. Y equals 1 times 2 becomes 2, so this ordered pair is negative 1, 2. Then the ordered pair negative 4, 2 becomes the ordered pair negative 4, 4. And my graph is stretched vertically. Okay. Next, I notice that in addition to multiplying by 2, I also have a multiplication of a negative 1. I'm purposefully doing this in two separate pieces because I want you to recognize that multiplying by a negative 1 in front of the function produces an x-axis reflection. So I'll graph this in purple. Okay, now we already have 2 square roots of negative x, so the ordered pair 0, 0 keeps staying the same because everything's 0. 1, 2 would become 1, negative 2. Negative 4, 4 would become negative 4, negative 4. And my graph would reflect about the x-axis. Okay, lastly, I see that there's a plus 1 outside the entire function. In our earlier discussion, we said that if you had a function, such as negative 2 root negative x, and I added 1 to the entire function, that produces a vertical shift upward, and in this case 1 unit. Okay, so I'll do this in pink. And if I shift upward 1 unit, this point 0, 0 that's remained fixed actually finally moves. The y coordinate would become 1. The point negative 1, 2 would shift upward 1 unit, become negative 1, negative 1. The point negative 4, negative 4 would shift upward vertically and become negative 4, negative 3. Same shape. And that guy would be our final graph. Okay, so remember, work inside out. And even though sometimes there are some things that are commutative operations, Sticking to a plan of working inside out and taking your time is always the best idea.